Hello, yes, good evening. My name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad, and host of, guess what the name of my podcast is? It's up in the top right-hand corner, but in case you're listening and not watching, I am the host of the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast. Because, guess what? I'm tall, I'm friendly, I'm an atheist, and I'm a dad. And I have a podcast, strangely enough. Anyway, this is part 2 of Sermons from My Past. And this is the second part of Building Dynamic Relationships. Hit the music.
So far from lies and hypocrisy, returns to energy, and silence becomes breathe. Don't ask me the reason why. Just say I only dream in black and white. Future's nothingness, but I can choose another end. Opening my eyes, and you beginning in my life. Without emptiness to feel, I am sure of myself. No mercy until the end.
Good evening, yes, hello. That was Victim of Illusion with the promo video for their album Invisible Light. Head on over to I forgot the website already, victimofillusion.bandcamp.com, and pick up their album Invisible Light for a very reasonable price and help support independent music artists. So, if you're wondering why I use their music all the time, well, it's because they're the only ones who have given me permission to. And I like their music. So, yes, and just for a bit of a background, video, I've got a 4K Scenic Byway 12 All-American Road in Utah, USA, 5 hours of road drive with relaxing music from the 4K Relaxation channel. So, enjoy that. And so, in this video, in this broadcast, I'll continue to read and add comments on a sermon that was preached to me years ago that I still happen to have the notes for, from my former pastor Brendan J. Kirby, titled Building Dynamic Relationships, and this is part of the Hope of God Church and their university outreach called Campus Christian Movement. Very daggy. So Campus Christian Movement. And so every time I'd say I'm from Campus Christian Movement, where are you moving to? Don't know. Mediocrity. Maybe where we're going. But yes, so I got about halfway through the first page because... yeah. Anyway, so I'll speak English one day. Head on over to the YouTube channel for the podcast, where I've got 1,000 other, actually no, I've got 83 other videos of books that I've read and sermons that I've read and just other stuff. So yeah, and it's actually quite different to my podcast. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to continue on where I left off. And yeah, so give me a second. I'm going to put some music on. We'll put this road trip on. There you go. Very lovely, relaxing music there. So put your feet up, get in a bath, ASMR, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I just laughed myself to... Anyway, if you are watching this live, this is actually a live broadcast. And if you want, leave some comments. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. How do we begin? Building strong, enduring, understanding, supportive relationships takes time and effort, but it is worth all the investment. To develop good relationships. Now, at this part, it's 6 bullet points, and so I'll go through them. To develop good relationships, 1. Make them top priority. With God first, then with others. 2. Build on the little things, day by day. And in brackets, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5. Do not offer neglect, followed by an expensive present. 3. Never give up. 4. Overcome loneliness. And he's got here Nikki's story. 5. Be yourself. And next to that is an illustration with footnote 2. And number 6. Do not overdo it. Look after yourself and your own family as well. Now, while we're there, I just want to see what... okay, alright. That's interesting there. Anyway, let me so stretch a little bit. And then the next part he's got is titled Building Stronger Relationships. And this is a 7-point bullet point. 1. Make an effort. Leave your comfort zone. 2. Encourage others. Spur them on. 3. Appreciate others. Talk about good points, not being critical. 4. Be enthusiastic. 5. Talk about what interests them. 6. Be honest and generous. 7. Be sensitive to the various levels of the relationship. With an acquaintance, talk about the weather. Working relationship, talk about work, family, etc. Friendship, go out together. Intimacy, share feelings, hopes, dreams. Empathy, know everything about each other. All right, so this is now my turn to get a couple of words in. So this isn't all bad advice, I would say. Probably the first thing that strikes me is that one of the criticisms that people in my church had about Pastor Brendan was that he focused a lot on these, I suppose, practical sermons. He focused a lot on, things like, time management and building relationships and, loving people and all this kind of stuff. And to a point, he's correct. But some of the more old-timey people in my church would have actually complained that you're not preaching the gospel enough. You're not. And this kind of sermon is actually probably one of those sermons that really played into that. It was like, hold on, well, why are we talking about building relationships when people come to church to hear Jesus? Stuff like that. But having said that, I actually don't have too much of a problem with these kind of sermons. You can learn, you can pick up good stuff from there, and besides, like, the thing I've noticed about sermons is that, like, people will forget sermons. Like, the only time people will remember sermons is one, when it's done by a guest speaker and not by the regular pastor. So any sermon that the regular pastor preaches, especially if it's part of like a 15-part series or something, people just go, yeah, whatever. It's just like, by the by, you go through the numbers, all that kind of stuff. But if you get like a guest speaker or or if something controversial happens, or let's say, the pastor takes his shirt off, or, he fires a gun, or it's just something ridiculous, that sermon will be talked about for a very long time. But like, a run-of-the-mill, no frills, no controversy, no antagonism, that kind of sermon, it's like that stuff will be forgotten. So even if it is like a Jesus sermon or a Holy Spirit sermon or whatever sermon, then it's going to be forgotten. Like, the only reason people complain about the sermon is because, oh, my feelings are important. Your feelings are important, yes, but it is the pastor's church, and he can talk about what he feels is important, but he's not a dictator as well. So to develop good relationships, Pastor Brendan says, make them top priority. Build on the little things. Never give up. Overcome loneliness. Be yourself. Do not overdo it. So this first one here, make relationships top priority. Then he's got next to it, with God first, then with others. Now, when I was a believer, and that's when I got the sermon when I was a believer, the idea of putting God first it sounded good. It's like, hey, love God and love people and love this and love that. But God was number one. But I suppose the practical question is, how do you make God number one? Is there something that I'm going to quote David B. Ramsey, author of, I'm going to quote the title of his book, Speaking of God, We Don't Know Shit. So how do you differentiate between what God is communicating with you and what you feel about what God is communicating with you? And this is the thing. It's sort of like, it's a little, it's a little bit of a self-reinforcing circle, self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever you want to call it, because like the church will feed you the lines about God, and then you pray or whatever, and very rarely would God tell you something that goes against what your pastor says. And so in a way, what God says is what your pastor says is what it's a bit of a let me just kill this ad because this is what we need. Ads, great. So I suppose, I don't quite get how building a relationship with God helps you build a relationship with others, unless you treat God as this magic formula that just magically makes magical things happen. And it's but I do actually agree that making relationships is a good thing. I suppose the only question is at what expense. I run my own business, and relationships are important, but having said that, I'm more of the quality relationship rather than the quantity. Myself, and in my personal life, I don't have that many friends, but the friends I do have, if I trust you, I will be loyal to you to a fault. But if I don't, you'll be on the outer until I trust you, kind of thing. But I suppose, and the other thing is, let's say God wanted you to do something that would go against what is established in your relationship. So, for example, we can go to the Gospels to work out something like this. So, where Jesus says to a disciple, come with me, leave your family behind. Well, it's a good way to build a relationship with your family is by letting your dad bury someone. And Jesus says, let the dead bury their own dead. So, this is and we also see in both Matthew and Luke, where Jesus says, I've come not to bring peace but a sword. I've come to turn family against one another, family of 5 will be divided against itself, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. So yeah, so like at what it's just like at what stage does the well, I suppose 1, how do we know what God is saying? 2, what does making God a priority have to do with others? And what if God wanted you to do something that goes against your family? Anyway, 2 seconds. Alright, so I just had to give the son a hug. Yeah, so those 3 things, yeah, as a Christian, I would have swallowed those hook, line, and sinker, but as an atheist, so yeah, I think the rational part of me goes, well, okay, sure, whatever. Number 2, build on the little things day by day. Yeah, which is actually kind of like a good relationship isn't built overnight, and that is I have to give Pastor Brendan props here. Yeah, it's actually, I'm just going to check out what the verse says. So in here he has quoted 1 Corinthians 13, and I'm just going to see what 1 Corinthians 13 verses 4 and 5 is. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Yeah. Oh my gosh, if I had $1 for every wedding or funeral that quoted 1 Corinthians 13, I was going, oh God, yeah, wouldn't need to run my own business. I can run my own business by appearing at funerals and weddings where, where preachers go, oh, 1 Corinthians 13. But this is actually, I see a little bit of a contradiction here. Because, the Bible says elsewhere, in the New Testament it says God is love. But then we see here that, God, so love does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Yet, there are verses where God says, I'm a jealous God. God says, you shall have no other before me. And there's a verse in Revelations where it says, King of Kings and Lord of Lords on his robes. It does not dishonor others except for killing all the Amalekites and Canaanites and Midianites. It is not self-seeking. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. It is not easily angered. Says the same God that killed a guy for touching the ark. It keeps no record of wrongs, which is why there's a hell for people who do not follow the God that keeps, for the God of love that keeps no record of wrongs. But anyway, that's a. But here we go. Here, do not offer neglect, followed by an expensive present. I will actually agree with that. That is good advice. I suppose to me, a relationship is the. Not so much the big gestures, but just more consistency. That's where, like me, I wouldn't call myself rich, and I don't lavish expensive presents on my friends. But what I do for my friends is I stay in contact with them, and I offer them advice, and I give them a laugh, and I give them a shoulder to cry on, or give them space to get something off their chest, which is. Sometimes I do buy expensive things for my friends and for my family and all that kind of stuff, but it's more the like for me it's just more consistency. And I think maybe he could have said that, but I do agree with the principle. Don't neglect someone and then follow with an expensive present, and maybe don't use the expensive present as an excuse to allow yourself to show neglect. But for me, consistency is more the thing. So I think Pastor Brendan is on the right track. I think he could have worded it a little bit better. Point number 3 is where he goes, never give up. And he quotes 1 Corinthians 13, 7. And if anyone wants to leave a comment, feel free to leave comments. I'm not opposed to comments. 1 Corinthians 13, 7 is, it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Yeah, that's, I suppose you can use that as a never give up. But like, it's not like just being a good person doesn't always, like, being a good person doesn't persuade evil people to become good. Is what I'll say there. So I find it interesting how it's almost like never give up. And in the last in the part 1 of this sermon series, I told the story of my relayed briefly the story of my business partner, who I had a falling out with, and yeah, for about a year and a half, couple of years, it was tough going because yeah, just having to manage emotions and all that kind of stuff, and in the end, I gave up. You know, I had enough. I did my best to be honourable towards this guy. I have no, actually, I can't say no ill will, but yeah, it'd be hell awkward if I spoke to him again. I'll say that much. There is definitely unresolved business there, but yeah, never. So I do find that the whole mantra of don't give up. It's almost the same as if it's wrong to give up, and I think that's and again, it's almost like this weird thing where you're expected to be able to convert people by showing them how honourable you are, and yes. Unfortunately, life doesn't always work that way. Like, okay, changing minds with honourable behaviour only works for those who are honourable. I'll say that much. Then his bullet point 4 is overcome loneliness. So to develop good relationships, overcome loneliness. And he quotes Nikki's story as a footnote 1. Footnote 1 is, Fran and Jill Siaka, does anyone else feel this way? Let me see if I can find that. What's the... I have a feeling that... Okay, 2-6. Okay, apologies about that. That was, sorry, I had to, pardon me, sorry. Help out with homework. Oh, sorry, housework. It's, okay, so let me just, find... Sorry about this. If you're bored, please forgive me. This is what happens in a live stream. Things are live. Whoops. Okay. Alright. It's kind of coming together now. Okay, so it's a book by Fran and Jill Siaka. Does anyone else feel this way? Conquering loneliness, depression, and thoughts of suicide. It was written back in 1990, which is, and given this sermon would have been given late 90s, early 2000s, yes. Let me just see what, But I get the feeling that this book is, I suppose, along the lines of I Kissed Dating Goodbye. What's it called? Does anyone... Yeah, okay. Anywho. So I don't know what the story is there. And here's, and then the fifth bullet point here is be yourself. And he's got the second footnote is from R. Reynolds and D. Lynn. Codependency confusion. Alright, so I'm going to see what... let me see... Reynolds and... How do you spell Lynn? Codependency... confusion... Alright. Okay. So it's another... Looks like another Christian book, because of course, only Christians give good advice. Okay, so it's from Zondervan, because that's, yeah, the most trusted book. Okay, codependency confusion, developing a healthy relationship. Is there any... relationships, sorry, this is the Amazon listing. Okay, a workbook to help people identify and overcome codependent behavior. Issues cover passivity, self-protection, and finding intimacy. Look, on the face of it, yeah, on the face of it, it seems like a book I'd like to pick up. But probably in the real, it's probably just like, oh, pray a bit more and stop. Don't give the devil a foothold, and feeling depressed is Satan trying to hurt you or something like that. I don't know, just stuff like that. But and the problem is be yourself. Well, the problem is what if you have mental health issues? What if you have, like, I suppose, and it's interesting coming from Pastor Brendan Kirby. Now, this is where it is getting a little bit heavy, but having been in his particular church for about 3.5-4 years, and then being in another one of the Hope of God churches for another few years after that, individuality wasn't always celebrated. Like, you could have individuality, but that individuality had to be within their confines. You know, it was it wasn't a totally accepting implementation of individuality, just because, yeah, you kind of had to, especially if they thought your behavior was of the devil, or in my case, they literally told me that I had a spirit of rebellion, and I will quote that till the day I pass away, because that is literally what they said numerous times. So, yeah, so be yourself. Yeah, it's, and the thing is that numerous evangelical preachers are, you know, saying things that would go against the idea of being yourself, and this is the. But all theological things aside, I would say that overcoming loneliness. Actually, I don't know what it means, but to develop good relationships, overcome loneliness. So, okay, without having their book in front of me, but be yourself in a way, yes, because the best relationships are the ones in which you are completely honest. And I can say that with my friends, I've got good friends. I've got a couple, I suppose, 3 of my closest friends that I can be as crude and as, I suppose, vulgar and, not nasty, because I don't get joy out of being nasty to my friends, but within a good sense of humour. I do say offensive things, and it's not taken offensively, and but I do have a very sarcastic sense of humour. I do use sexual words. I do use profanities. I use but as I said before, I think the thing is consistency. And so one of my friends is going through a divorce, and I let her chat, and I'll give her my advice and give her a space to vent, and just let her, and she is, or no, to say I can't really confirm that, but yeah, it's just but I suppose the thing is, like, be yourself, but you kind of have to be comfortable with yourself first. And this is the thing, I suppose, in the atheist movement, there are more people who are comfortable with themselves than this is not to say there aren't genuine Christians, but it's just that particularly the more fundamental versions of Christianity, it is very hard to know whether someone is good to you because they feel a theological imperative to be good to you, or whether they are good to you for the sake of being good to you. And I can tell you, from my perspective, I am friendly because friendliness is more beneficial than antipathy. So that's my thing. I will be, I'll be nice to you. I have friends on both sides of the theological aisle. I have Jewish friends. I have Christian friends. I have atheist friends. I have, and in the various workplaces that I've been in, working in IT, you do come across a lot of people who are Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi, and a lot of those people are Muslims. And I have no problem with Muslims. I'm not going to offer them a bacon sandwich, or a bacon sandwich and a beer. But I will treat them with respect if they need me to. I suppose tone things down, or So that's so be yourself too. I suppose be yourself, but be yourself to a, how can I say, like, be yourself, but be prepared for consequences is the thing. So yeah, sure, be yourself, but if you are a piece of shit, and you tell Christians that they're just deluded dickheads, and they believe in a psychopathic, or what did Richard Dawkins say, the most horrible character in all of fiction. Well, guess what? You're not going to have good relationships by by being yourself. But having said that, I think like, to me, relationships are give and take as well. So it's not, I'm going to end this soon anyway. It's getting a little bit late, and I've got to be at work early tomorrow. Lucky me. Hey. But is bullet point 6 here, do not overdo it. Look after yourself and your own family as well. Yeah, I would actually kind of agree with that. You can't be healthy, and how you can say, like, a healthy family shouldn't be healthy at the expense of someone else. If you get what I mean, like, yeah, so you do need to look after yourself, and help those who are a little bit weaker, and pull weight, I suppose is the word. Anyway, that went for a little bit longer than what I thought, just because you get me talking. So that was part 2 of building dynamic relationships with Pastor Brendan J. Kirby from Campus Christian Movement. In the next reading, I'll go through the 6 tips he goes through for building stronger relationships. Anyway, I have been, still am, and probably always will be Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad, host of the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast. Find my podcast at anchor.fm/TFA Dad. Find the podcast on Google, Apple, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and wherever good podcasts are found. I might be hanging around there. Reach out to me on Twitter. Twitter.com/TF80pod. Facebook.com/TF80pod. The website is www.tallfriendlyatheistdad.com. And check out the other videos I have on my YouTube channel. But otherwise, until next time, stay safe, stay rational, look after yourselves.
I am sure